it's me, Carmine DeStefano, the Bookman. Now, before I begin, I want to warn you all that spoilers are coming. So if you've never seen Endgame, stand back. It's all too gruesome. Get back. So now that I've said that, and I've given you an opportunity to leave, let me just explain to you first, before I get into why the MCU version of Thanos was a complete betrayal of the actual comic Thanos, and why I didn't really appreciate how things ended. So before I tell you about the character himself, just a little heads up here. I am a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe because I'm a fan of Marvel movies, and specifically the cinematic universe does get certain elements right, especially about specific characters. And I will say it again, that if you want to see a true comic book movie that is very, very loyal to the source material, more or less, and is dumbed down for everybody to enjoy, and is well put together, Captain Marvel is the best comic movie this year thus far. And now that I've said that, let me explain to you all, if you don't know the comics, because I do, and especially now, I had to do some research, and I started reading some Thanos comics, so I have a little bit more insight into this character, though I knew specific concepts of him before I read these comics. Let me just explain to you the character. The character Thanos was the elder son, born in a family that kind of led the planet Titan, which was an immortal, beautiful race of people that looked like perfect humans. Except Thanos looked like Thanos. Thusly, he was looked down upon because he wasn't pretty. But because he was the eldest of the two sons, he was supposed to take on his father's leadership role, and they didn't see eye to eye in certain things. Thanos had a little bit more interest in life and death. And when he was doing an experiment when he was younger, his family found out about it, his people found out about it, he was exiled, and thus on his own was studying more. And death, the entity, appeared to him as sort of a companion, a friend almost, even a motherly influence that he trusted, that he adored, and ended up falling in love with. And thus he did everything he could, like get the 6 stones, to wipe out half of all life in order to impress death. But death itself, not herself, itself, had said to Thanos, if death is all you can give me, then that's not what you can give me. That's not what I want, because I am death. What do I need more death? Telling him that his pursuit of getting her appreciation was going in the wrong direction, despite the fact that she did love Thanos, or it did love Thanos. Thanos, realizing he wasn't going to please death in that manner, realizing he wasn't going to please death at all, decided to rescind everything that he did that was destructive and try to go a more peaceful route, which is what I'm reading now, the Good Samaritan series. It's 12 comics of Thanos. And in it, he redeems himself by undoing certain things that he did. There was also another one where he actually called Adam Warlock, who was once his nemesis, his friend. Well, Adam Warlock called him that anyway. So the concept of Thanos is that he's excessively intelligent. He has projections utilizing technology and his own abilities, like eye beams and blaster shots, psionic beams from his, or pulse rays from his hands, stuff like that. That is, again, his technology. He is already astute in advanced technology, but can advance even more because of his extreme intelligence. He studies everything down to a T, is very calculating, excuse me, and to the point where he actually planned out his own death. And the way he did it was like, where did that come from? This is Thanos. He's thorough, he doesn't make mistakes, and if he loses on his own. He doesn't lose because someone beat him. He loses because he wants to. Even Adam Warlock said in the Infinity War series, I know something that most don't about you, that you choose not to succeed. And that is pretty much what Thanos is. He's unstoppable, so he chooses not to succeed at times. Conversely, the Marvel Cinematic Thanos, though built up initially to be interested in the concept of courting death, and seemed to be very clandestine when it came to tracking down the stones, became this unstoppable warlord that liked to fist fight with people and had no projections whatsoever and liked to use a two-headed blade. He also realized that his plan was not going to work the way he wanted it to, realized that his demise was coming because of it, and somehow managed to fuck up even more in Endgame when he decided to crash land into the future after he knew the heroes had the stones, most likely used them because he would have found that out if he was calculating like he was in the comics, and decided to take them on one-on-one or 12-on-1 or whatever it was, fighting with his fists again and ending up screwing up because they had the stones, he didn't, so he had to get them back. He also went from being alone and just having Gamora and Nebula to having this grandiose army, not the Chitauri, which was somebody else's army, this grandiose army with the Black Order, which, hey, I don't care. And I just want to explain what I was saying before. The way they were building everything up led me to believe that Endgame, with the writers that they have in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, were going to come up with something really, really clever that people didn't see coming. Well, I didn't see it coming, but it sure as shit wasn't clever. Or at least it wasn't as clever as it should have been. The time travel thing, okay, whatever, it happens. But you did that before, didn't you? You could do that with the fucking time stone, can't you? I mean, that whole thing with Doctor Strange, for crying out loud. You open the door up to different dimensions. Why don't you have Mephisto and stuff like that to have a grander concept of the entire cinematic universe, to open it up to other things? And seeing as how we're going to a phase 4 with another villain, if that other villain is the Beyonder or Galactus, you better not fucking kill them, because they, unlike Thanos, are not specifically flesh and blood. But upon saying that, killing Thanos was bad enough, especially doing it twice. Upon saying that, tell me if you wouldn't have rather had this. Seeing as how they built up Nebula wanting to kill him, seeing as how they built up his love for death in some form or another, and whatever else they were building up for him as a specific character, what if, instead of the way it ended, what if, I mean, Infinity War, how about Infinity War ended with him going back to his throne with the stones and saying, and not looking like he was wounded or whatever, because in the comics and even in the movie, Thor says they're space magic. In the comics, the stones weren't nuclear weapons. They were, you know, personified, abstract aspects of life and everything else in stones that you couldn't really just destroy. But, I mean, I guess you can use the stones to destroy themselves, but whatever the case, and they were planning on doing that, the Illuminati, I believe, but whatever the case, the power was just too enticing. So what if he kept the stones, and instead of going to the garden planet that he wanted to retire in, he actually went back to his throne that they'd shown in Guardians of the Galaxy, and there had a statue of a robed-like feminine figure with a skull for a face, and he says, "I did that for you," or something along those lines. Seeing as how, when in the Soul World, at the end of Infinity War, he saw Gamora as a child ask if everything he did, what did it cost? And he said everything, as though he were compelled to do something against his own will. So what if he acknowledged that he did it for this form? And you don't have to say what it is, but it's this form. Because I know you want to offend anybody about a man being in love with a woman. I know, God, offensive, how offensive that is. But let's say you ended Infinity War with that. Then, in Endgame, you start off with Thanos sitting there in his throne with the stones, and I don't know, having fleets of the Kree, of the Skrulls, who you introduced in the previous movie, the Xandarians, even the leftover Asgardians just coming to him, and him just running roughshod all over them with the stones. And looking as though, against his will, he's becoming more and more psychotic. Almost to the point where he's enjoying himself, but then reflecting and then backing out and using the space stone to go somewhere else, almost like he doesn't want to be bothered by all this craziness. And then back on Earth with Captain Marvel and everybody in tow, you have the Avengers with Nebula, and then maybe have like the Sovereign find Tony Stark or something like that, or even have Captain Marvel find Tony Stark, whatever. Just get him back to Earth and have them try to come up with a plan to find Thanos, seeing as how all this destruction going on, or even send Captain Marvel out to space and she'll tell you about the destruction and all the things he's doing, and I know where he is. And with Tony Stark and everything, they make a ship with the remaining ship that they have, the remnants of the Guardians of the Galaxy ship, to fly over to Thanos. There's your first half of the movie. And while they're going there, if they want to get deeper with the characters, if they want to engage each other more and all that shit, fine. Do that to sort of settle the craziness of what's going on. Then they find Thanos on his planet. They have some other troops that follow along with them that are all trying to engage him in one form or another, and maybe there'll be some clashing ideals, which also extends to different conflicts. But whatever the case, they go after Thanos. Thanos is just wiping everything out. And even at one point, before all this, he says to the statue, "Is this not enough for you? Is this not enough?" Because it seems like he's breaking down emotionally. So when they're fighting him, you can see he's even more conflicted. But at one point is so maddened by power, he says that he's inevitable, whatever, and becomes eternity. But the gauntlet falls off. And right away, Nebula sees it. Since she built up that she wanted to kill Thanos, grabs the gauntlet, puts it on, undoes everything, looks like her old self with the hair and everything like that, looks even to the point where Stark and maybe even Professor Bruce Banner mentioned that she's hot. And then she just starts screaming, "I want to kill Thanos," without undoing everything. I'm sorry, without undoing everything, just says, "I gotta kill Thanos." And she starts freaking out, and Thanos goes, "No, you can't let her have the gauntlet. She's crazy, she's stupid, she'll make a mess of everything." So they all start converging on her in some kind of uneasy alliance with Thanos. She runs off, and now with Thanos saying, "I have to make amends, the power was too great, I was trying to do something that will never be appeased. I will make amends to all of you, but we have to get the gauntlet from her." And that becomes the final battle. They get the gauntlet from Nebula, no one has to die, they undo everything. Thanos says, "You take the stones again, I don't want to have anything to do with them, I'm going to run off on my planet, I don't want to be bothered by any of this stuff, but if you ever need my help, I will be there." Again, they'll be reluctantly accepting this. They'll all go back, retire, whatever. This way, if you do want to set something up with Galactus, you have Thanos there to help you out. Seeing as how Thanos is the only one that I know that outsmarted Galactus. Because you cannot fight Galactus through regular means. There cannot be just a fight with Galactus, or the Beyonder, or even Kang the Conqueror. Whatever it might be next, you cannot just have a regular battle with these people. It's not how it works. So that's what I think should have happened in Endgame. But I want you to tell me what you think. So leave it in the comments below. I thank you all for watching. I have more of you soon to come. So stay tuned, take care, and have a great day.